It's been a lot of conversations. I think at one point I did a couple interviews where I was traveling around Europe to meet with some of the players that have played an important role in the team to get to know them, for them to get to know me, to assess where we were at with different things. And then along the process, the amount of conversations I've had with players, with people inside the CSA, with leaders and community leaders inside Canada, as well as potential staff members. And that's one of the things I'd also like to announce today is that we'll be announcing the staff on Wednesday. So we're close to finalizing the details for the staff. So it's been active. It's been a lot of phone calls, a lot of time, discussing what we want to shape this to be for the future. And it's gotten me really excited because the more people you talk to, the more energy you see behind the team, the more excitement you see in what the future can bring. So yeah, it's been a lot of work and a lot of discussion, but all really, really good and helpful for me to have a good assessment as to where we are and where we need to go. Yeah. So first on Jonathan, I've competed against him for a lot of years, and I've seen his character on the pitch. And the first thing I said to him is, now we get to be on the same team. I think that obviously he's a little bit older, which I think is a big bonus for him because of his experience, because of his savviness, because of his understanding of the player pool and all the experiences he's had with the Canadian national team. So, I spoke to him right away and I said, my vision for you is a little bit almost like, can you be almost what Sasha Kljestan was a bit for the New York Red Bulls in terms of we had an intensive team. We had a team that made it very difficult on opponents, but Sasha was a little bit like the brain in the middle of the pitch. And so, I think that Jonathan can fill a role like that where he can meet the standards of the way that I want to play football with this team, but that he can also provide a little bit of savviness and a little bit of a football connection and intuition. So yeah, I'm excited to get to know him more. And then Richie, look, everyone that I spoke to before I even spoke to Richie, and by the way, I've already heard a lot about Richie and I've watched him play a ton. Everyone spoke about the energy he brings to the team and the character that he has and how important he is to the personality of the team. And so, yeah, I'm fully aware that he's not at 100% yet, but I think he's going to be an important personality in the team and obviously player as we move forward. And even though he's not ready to start playing big minutes and he's still got a long ways to go in terms of his overall integration back to playing again, I just felt that having him in from the beginning and having him be a part of the group and me really getting to know him and helping him understand the way that we want to play moving forward was really important to have him in as early as we possibly could. Yeah, I think in general, it will be about not just, there's so many things. Intelligence is going to be really important, but, I want to have a dynamic team and I want to have an athletic team. And so when I was evaluating a lot of the different players over the last weeks, a lot of it was how aggressive are they? How confident are they? How much do they show their will in a match? How much do they go after things with and without the ball? How much do they show a willingness to run? And all of those things became, I think, from the initial part, right? I have to get to know these guys 1v1 and in the group setting. And that's what I'm really excited about now is I finally get to work with this group. But obviously, with the way that I like to play dynamic football, this is an important factor. So there's some important players that I think are going to be left out. And let me say now, that this 26 roster, although it may look like it's an easy direct transfer into Copa America, I think there's likely to be some changes that'll be made based on health situations, based on performance in the camp, and then based on some other players that I think will deserve a shot as well as we move forward. And I'm just in the initial evaluation phase. We're trying to get to know guys, trying to get the group together and seeing how they respond to me as a leader, and then also the kind of football we want to play. I think this was the best group from the start to engage with and invest in, but there clearly will be others that will be integrated as we continue to move forward. Look, I've played several different formations at several different clubs. And, if I think back to the reasons why I did that, it was always about trying to maximize the qualities of the players that we had. And so, I think you'll see more than anything, I think more than what's the eventual formation going to be, I think it'll be more about flexibility and understanding how to use our principles of what we want to become, how to use that tactically to now manipulate what we want to get out of every game and out of every opponent. So, yeah, I mean, look, and I understand, I think a couple times it's been referenced now, like the starting 11. And clearly there's a group of established players that I think, a lot of people would go, well, he's going to be important moving forward, and he's going to be important. And we could probably, I could probably right off the top name 8 to 12 of those names. But for me, what'll be really important here is to develop an identity within the team and engage multiple people that we feel like can ultimately be a big benefit to what we'll try to achieve with the national team now, in a month from now, 6 months from now, and certainly 2 years from now. And for me to paint a picture for what that is and to engage different players in the right way to understand how to fit into what we're trying to build, that will be really important and will dictate a lot of our success. Let's start with dual nationals. We're still having discussions and still trying to determine what our options will be. And we're hopeful to continue to push the envelope as to which players we can convince to become part of our program. At the starting point, it's not, for me, it's not about me making an imprint by picking a bunch of different players and what I need to do to set the tone for who I am. That part of my leadership and personality, that doesn't concern me. What really is the focus is which group of players, again, can in my vision adapt the most quickly and have the best chance to understand how we're going to move this thing forward. And yeah, of course, there's different categories of different players at different positions, but this is the group that I evaluated and thought this is the group that I want to spend the first investment period on. And look, even some ways I tilted a little bit more in terms of European players, just because we'll have 3 more days with them in Europe versus MLS players that we won't get until 2 or 3 days before the match against Holland, right? So, and then, I'll be looking, I think, once we get into Copa America, of thinking, okay, based on what I know of what we've achieved in this initial 10 days and what I've seen from other players, how can we start to think about, all right, what's the best group to invest in for what Copa America needs to look like? So, that was a lot of the rationale behind it. And then, the last part is about how do I kind of answered it already, but honestly, for me, being a coach is not about addressing my insecurities. It's more about understanding how I want to build something and how I'm going to be able to help the players best understand who I am, how do I understand who they are, and how do we come together to now create a movement and a way of playing that defines what we're going to become, right? And that's my sole focus, right? It's take all the other stuff out of it and just how do I help this group of players become exactly what I believe they can become, and how do I invest wholly in it and spend every second that we're together to get that to accelerate as best as I can. Yeah. So and without Richie, and I want to say, like, I evaluated Ali Ahmed as well and thought about, where could he fit? And he's someone that we will clearly invest in the future as well. And I thought, okay, he plays sometimes on the left side. He plays sometimes on the right side. He plays sometimes as an 8. Like, his versatility is a strength, but then also trying to think about, okay, now what's best for the group in this moment? And how do we find the best players to fit into what we're initially trying to transform into? I felt that Kyle Hebert was going to be a good starting point because of what you said, because he works a lot under a system that's similar to what I'm going to create. And I say that about Moise Bombito as well, that I think the two of them are young and relatively unestablished, and will certainly need support as we move into this new phase with the national team. But I think that they can also help provide a little bit of a defensive foundation because they understand some of the principles and how to play the various positions. Now, you talk about Kyle. I think that Kyle, you're right. He can play left back. He can play center back. He can play right back. And clearly that's a strength. And he understands the system. So, again, we'll evaluate what it looks like. We'll give him a chance to try to adjust and adapt. And then we'll evaluate moving forward how to continue to invest in the right kind of guys to help us be successful. Yeah, I watched a lot of his U21 matches with Brighton. And listen, we all know that those matches aren't quite at the level of MLS or obviously of the Premier League. But when I watched him play, I saw a goalkeeper that was very sure of himself, that knew his strengths, that knew how to play to his strengths and performed quite well. So, and Jonathan winds up not being in it this time, but I also spoke to him that, given what he's gone through with Montreal and trying to make sure that he continues to build and adapt and perform within the team there. And I think he had a good season last year, and I think he had a good start of the season this year. So I think, and I told him flat out that he's a candidate for us to consider once we go into Copa America, and that this was just an initial group that I was going to invest in now, and for him to continue to push his performances and his team's performances at the club level. And that's the best thing he can do to earn himself the right to come in with the national team. So he was really good about it. I think he understood. And then I thought his performance on the weekend was also quite good. So, he'll be another guy that I think we'll evaluate moving forward. But back to Tom McGill, I think he has potential as a young goalkeeper to grow and continue to develop and be an important player in this player pool as we move forward. We can say Alphonso's our best player, right? And obviously there's other players that are in that category too. But I always think of how do you create a system that can access the best qualities of your best players, and so at the beginning, I think that there's certain ways that I want to engage him and challenge him to help us continue to grow into becoming a really sound and good defensive unit and team. But obviously, I think for us to be at our best, we can't. He's one of the world's best left backs, if not the world's best left back. But I think for the national team, we've got to also think about how to make him a key player and a key part of a key cog in the wheel of the system of what we're doing. So I think we'll at certain times try a few things to move him around, to get him on the ball more, to engage him within the team so that he's a big part of what happens from game in to game out, but then still also try to make sure that it's simple enough and clear enough where he can play to his strengths and do what's best for him to perform well, which will ultimately help the team well. So, I think there'll be a little bit of flexibility how we use him in his role, but all with the idea of trying to get him at his best and to get him on the ball and to make him an important part of how we're going to move forward with this team. Yeah, I mean, listen, typically if I have a preseason with a club team, we would schedule a first game or two against an opponent where it was a little bit easier and where we could have success. However, you don't have that many opportunities, right, when you're in club football, and especially that many opportunities to play against the world's best. So the challenge will be, can we institute how we want to move forward in a simple and concise way so that the players can go out on the field and not be thinking too much and be able to go out and play? Because I think the biggest takeaway that we can take away from these next matches is, what's the feeling like, with the way that we want to transform to challenge ourselves against the world's best players and best teams. And believe me, I understand that in this moment, that will in many ways be the most important thing out of this first 10 days together. It's not just transforming the style of play, but engaging the team to understand in the style of play, what's most important is that we go after the game, and that even against the best players, we can be effective and best teams, that we can still be effective in the way if we're clear, and if we're together, and if we're unified in our tactical and knowledge together, that we can still be very effective against the world's best. What a massive challenge, right? I mean, even when looking at all the different challenges in my career, in the moment, like trying to get this little 10 days right will be difficult, because I want to give them enough information for them to understand how we're going to move forward, but I don't want to overwhelm them that when they step on the pitch, they've got a million things in their mind. So there's going to really try to be a careful and precise step-by-step process over the next days to help them prepare for what these games will be. You know, Theo, I think, first of all, has had an incredible season, right? And I think he's at a stage in his career where, you know, it's likely that he's ready to make a move, and I think is deserving of a move, and has scored goals, performed well. I mean, done a lot for the team, even to get them into the championship phase of the Scottish league is a big achievement for a club like Motherwell. So, you know, I'm really excited to get him into camp and to get working with him about what we believe we can achieve with him on the pitch. And he was really keen and excited about getting started with that. So, you know, really excited to get to know him more. And then, you know, Junior Hoylett's someone I've watched for years and seen move around Europe and play with different clubs and have some really big performances. And I have a bit of a specific idea of what I want to achieve with him. And look, you know, it's no secret that I love young players, right? And that I've worked with a lot of young players and had success with young players. But I still think that if you have the right kind of established players with a mindset to continue to grow and learn and adapt, that you can still achieve a lot with experienced players as well. So my initial discussion with Junior about, you know, what it's been like there, how he's been successful. Certainly he's been on a run of games in this phase when they split the league, where he's been very effective and very productive. And so I think he's on a real confidence high right now. And I think the way he's played has been more dynamic, and he's tried to be a bigger, have big physical outputs and be a bigger part of making the team dynamic. And I think that he's been rewarded by his goals and assists through that kind of play. So yeah, with both guys, I'm really excited to get them and start to integrate them into what I think they can become for the national team. Mauro and I had a lot of really good conversations. Obviously, we have a great history together with our time in Montreal. From the get-go, Mauro is exactly what I thought he would be, which was, you know, hard in the right place, intelligent guy, has grown with a lot of his experiences, and dedicated to the Canadian national team, right? Like this is like in his heart. And so, you know, we haven't finalized or announced anything yet, but all the intention is that Mauro's going to continue to be a big part of the staff. And he's been great because it's also helped me with a lot of different discussions about, you know, what the staffs have been like in the past, and how the different relationships he's had with the players and what he's tried to achieve with them. And you know, then even like when I start to talk to him about the things that I want to try to value as we move forward, how does he think the players will adapt, and what will be some key things, and which players do we think can adapt in this way but need a little bit more support in that way. And so obviously I need to get going with the team and really get to know them all and understand, you know, their histories and what they can potentially become within what I want the team to be. But having Mauro as a little bit of a sounding board with some experience with everything has been really useful. And then, you know, I'll say on this too is to a man, the discussions I had with the players, they all exceeded my expectations. And I knew that they would be good people. I kind of had a good base of like what they were like and what they were like within a team. But what I was really impressed with was the level of insight and intelligence in terms of what's been good, what's helped them achieve, where they think the team needs to go, how the energy and team spirit and chemistry has come together, what kind of challenges we will face moving forward. Every single one of them had thoughts and opinions, and then addressing also their histories and where they're from and what they've achieved and how it will all come together. I'm so excited. I'm so excited, impressed, and enthused by the discussions I've had. Yeah. No, I have watched CPL games, evaluating different players. I need to get there and watch some matches live and get to see, the level. There's no better way than to understand the level of the game than when you're in the stadium, right? So I've talked with some of the people that have coached in the league, that are coaching in the league, some of the owners, some different people, right, to assess the overall level. And I think everybody's excited about what's happening there. And I've also then, been informed on some of the players that have potential to, in the next 2 years and beyond, to continue to grow and become part of our group. So, but in general, I'm excited to get to know that league more and more. And certainly, I think that the future is bright. And certainly even, I think there's a large number. I'm not sure exactly what the number is, or maybe John and Paula can help with this, but there's a large number of players that are on this squad now that have started or played in the CPL, right? So again, I think we have to really do a good job of evaluating where that league's at. And again, I think, I've asked Mauro to help a lot with this too, because he's familiar with it, because he's been there and he's watched these games. So yeah, this will be an important part of the assessment of where the sport is at and where players are at moving forward.
Have you sort of had any time to sort of sit back and reflect on this journey that you've taken to now where you're going to be head of a national team coach, that's going to compete in the home World Cup in 2 years' time?
No.
Okay.
And mostly because my thought process has totally in this moment just been, okay, how do we, it's only been 2 weeks. And so if you think about now, I've got to evaluate players. I've got to create video and talking points and meetings for how we're going to transform it. I've had to be very precise and careful about how we're going to do that. I've got to think about the preparation for the upcoming opponents, all within leading into how important Copa America will be as a first international tournament for our group. And then again, how to help them adapt and how to help them understand what's going to be important and what things we're going to value moving forward, how to identify the leaders, how to have conversations with these types of players and figure out now how to put all of the pieces together so that as us, what we are, we can find a way to start with a really good foundation and only build from there. So just if you think about all of those things that I've had at hand, there hasn't been any time to reflect on how magnanimous a position in a moment this is, for anyone sitting in this chair right now. But obviously, everything we've done and everything we've talked about is with the vision of, okay, in 2 years, what do we want to be and what do we want this to look like? And how do we electrify a nation, right? So, but in order to do that we've got so many little things to do here. So, it's not really even the time to start talking about results and big dreams. And it's now time to get to work and get my hands dirty with what's going to be important for us to be successful in the now and in the short term so that we can build for the future.